Welcome to Bleeding Heart Orphanage.
What the hell are you doing to that cat?
Drink your milk, kiddies. It's good for you.
The Bleeding Heart child represents a very special challenge to today's modern parent.
Don't get up. All set?
We got one.
Who are you?
This is your new little brother.
He voided our checking account.
Howdy there, Ronaldos and Russellos. It's me again, Christian Huey, back with another episode of the only and therefore best podcast solely devoted to the band Sparks. This is episode 49, the Bad Pains and Growing Manners episode. What the hell am I talking about, you ask? Well, I will get to that, but I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the real news of the week, which is the worldwide release of Ron and Russell's 28th studio album, or maybe 30th or 214th, depending on how and what you decide to count as an official Sparks album, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, legend has it that MAD, that's M-A-D in all caps and followed by an exclamation point, was written and recorded in just 6 months and hot off the tails of their improbably successful world tour promoting their previous album, 2023's The Girl Is Crying in Her Latte. Sparks' late career revival shows no sign of slowing down. Indeed, not only are there already sold-out concert dates on the 2025 tour calendar, but MAD debuted on the UK album charts at an astonishing number 2. That is the highest chart position Sparks have enjoyed in the UK ever. Maybe anywhere, ever. And it bears mentioning that 1974's Kimono My House, the album they recorded and released in the UK, and with a UK band, with the expressed sentiment of making the UK charts, only made it to number 4 on the UK album charts. So this is a stunning achievement, especially with no major label to promote the thing. It would seem that all the goodwill and the renewed interest in the band following the critically lauded art house film Annette, as well as the Edgar Wright documentary The Sparks Brothers, shows no sign of abating. Now, you may be asking, hey, Christian, how do you feel about MAD? Are you mad about it, or are you instead rather mad about it? Well, the truth is, my impression is not well formed yet, which is exactly the way it's been for me in the wake of the release of the last few albums. In fact, co-collaborator Monty Mallon plans to record a first impressions panel for his YouTube channel, Sparks Entertainment and Art, which he then intends to follow up a few months down the road to see how everyone's opinions have mutated after some repetition and immersion. I will say that many of the same lyrical themes from Latte are here again, including a new "We're here, we're weird, get used to it" statement of purpose, as well as the expected political protest song or two, although always cloaked in male-esque abstraction. There's at least one completely guileless, unironic, lovely love song, which is territory Sparks has been claiming a bit more of in recent years. There are songs that are overt love letters to Los Angeles, and of course a generous helping of the sorts of odes to social alienation that Ron has made his trademark over the decades. Now, Russ may not hit the falsettos like he did in the 70s, but for a guy in his 70s, his pipes are miraculously well preserved. Sonically, MAD is very much in line with their work since 2020's A Steady Drip Drip Drip, although with slightly heavier emphasis on synths and drum loops and less obvious use of a full band. Anyway, that's all I'm going to share right now about my own thoughts, but this one looks to be another late-era near classic, if not classic, with a lot of depth, interestingly crafted and danceable beats, classic Ron lyrics, and a similar melancholic vibe to their previous works of this decade. It's on Transgressive Records, and you should get it right now if you don't already have it. And now for the episode at hand. Okay, so imagine it's the year 1984 and you are pop culture. The local shopping mall is the new church. Panama is a song to do air guitar to, not a country still leasing a canal to the U.S. You're busy burning a hole in the ozone layer with can after can of Aquanet. There's a B movie actor in the White House and a crop of D movies at the local Cineplex, as well as the video store. It bears recalling, for those who can, that for every Blood Simple or Ghostbusters, there were dozens of films out of Hollywood hundreds that tried to capture the mid-'80s zeitgeist and utterly failed. Stinkers like Hot Dog, the movie, and Where the Boys Are 84. More about that one later. Now, I was old enough to have seen Bad Manners, or Growing Pains, or whatever your VHS cassette decides to call it, when it was new. But, of course, I didn't. And I have my parents to thank for that. But look at the cast of Bad Growing Pains Manners. The late, great Martin Mull, just months away from his unforgettable turn as Colonel Mustard in Clue, and subsequently every other 80s comedy. There's Karen Black, the sizzling sex symbol forever attached to the new Hollywood counterculture, thanks to movies like Easy Rider and Five Easy Pieces. There's future Twin Peaks star Kimmy Robertson and her bare boobies. Yeah, that's right. There's even an underaged Pamela Segal, née Adlon, probably most famous today as the voice of Bobby Hill from fictional Arlen, Texas. So, is the movie any good? Maybe you've been able to parse from my statements thus far that, well, let's say this. One gets the impression, first of all, that 29-year-old director Bobby Houston wasn't providing much in the way of instruction to his actors. It's the feeling I get. And when it seems like he does, you kind of wish he weren't. To be fair, Houston redeemed himself later in his career with a few solid documentaries, mostly centered around the American civil rights struggles of the 50s and 60s. But there is no way you would ever accuse this movie of any kind of cultural sensitivity. Bad Manners manages to offend just about every demographic you can think of, which, hey, doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, except that it's also offensive to people who just want to watch a good story well told. The jokes and gags make Hustler seem highbrow. The script feels like it was written on the fly, with the studio demanding to get their money's worth out of each fancy set piece, and, for a movie aimed at kids, it's maximally kid-unfriendly. Owen Gleiberman of the Boston Phoenix wrote at the time, "What's truly smarmy about Bad Manners is that Bobby Houston has taken this sort of canned outrageousness and made it an emblem of smirky superiority." So, what am I even doing talking about this dog of a movie that makes Porky's 3 look like Henry V? Well, if you didn't already know, of course, it's the Sparks connection. Fresh off a tour to promote their 12th album, Sparks in Outer Space, Sparks had become something of hometown heroes, albeit a dozen or so years later than they would have liked. Better late than never. Having long since broken with the Eurocentric glam or Italo disco vibes, Ron and Russ were leaning deep into L.A. culture. And what's more L.A. than Hollywood? For some time, Sparks held lofty but sadly ephemeral ambitions to put their stamp on the film scene. But for every noble project that was dashed, a few more questionable ones that did get made sought out Sparks' contributions. There was to be no high-concept comedy about the vicissitudes of fame with Jacques Tati, but there was Sparks playing Sparks in Roller Coaster. There would never be a Modesty Blaze, but there was Get Crazy, Where the Boys Are 84. There it is again. Heavenly Bodies, and this. I wish I could tell you how Ron and Russell, still signed to Atlantic by the way, said yes or even may we please to penning and recording an entire film soundtrack, a movie whose celluloid honestly isn't worth 1,000th of the acetate that held Sparks' very first set of demos way back in 1969. But it's a legend I simply haven't been able to unearth. No doubt the very fact that none of the 10 original songs that comprise the Bad Manners soundtrack have ever seen an official release, that should tell you something. Likewise, the fact that only one of these tunes was ever performed by Sparks live. And that would be, it's kind of like the movies, which is performed by Gleaming Spires on the soundtrack, interestingly. So, yeah. As a piece of pop music history, Bad Manners, the soundtrack, remains a curio. Even as a full-length Sparks work, it rarely comes up in conversation, and the whole project seems to have been swept under the rug and through the memory hole. It's as if as soon as their 83 tour ended, Ron and Russ waved bye-bye to Mickey and Minnie Mouse and disappeared straight into a CMI Fairlight to begin meticulously programming their follow-up album, Pulling Rabbits Out of a Hat. But the truth is, as much as this album that never was remains forever trapped in 1984 like a ColecoVision, it's not all that bad. It's worth a listen. If nothing else, it's worth a chuckle that the title track appears twice, not counting the shorter reprise. The opening track is titled Bad Manners, and the final one is Growing Pains. Maybe Ron and Russ didn't know what the final title of the film would be either, so they had Russell sing different lyrics to identical backing tracks and put them both on the soundtrack. Now, these tracks are of a piece with some of the Sparks B-sides of that era, all pseudo-disco Linn drum beats and Jupiter 8 synth lines. It's cheesy, like Velveeta, but kind of fun regardless, like Velveeta. Russell is in some kind of a game show host mode here, sure, but his voice can't not sound good, and Ron can't not write catchy melodies or get in a clever lyric here and there. But the real vitality comes from these other players Sparks have tapped for the soundtrack to interpret their new songs. This includes not just old friends, the Gleaming Spires, but some unfamiliar faces and voices, such as Adele Bertay, who sounds awfully similar to Sparks' protege Noel, Lori Bell, who shares a mic with Russell in a rather Jane Whelan-ish fashion, and future Austin blues legend Charlie Sexton belting out a rockabilly number that could have been a hit in another universe, honestly. Now, you may wonder, in the absence of liner notes, are these all Sparks songs? Good question. I asked friend of the pod and Sparks gigafan Rud Swart, and he believes, and if I am misquoting you, Rud, I do apologize, that with the exception of the instrumental track Scared, which is credited to some act called Runnings, these are all, in fact, Sparks originals. I'm joined this episode once again by Mr. Monty Mallon as well as Mr. Chris Sutton, who is the author of a new book about the Mail Brothers, On Track, Sparks 1969 to 1979. He was kind enough to send me a copy, and boy, does it scratch the itch for wanting to absorb new words about old songs. So, big giant welcome and thank you to Chris. I hope to get him back on the show very soon to talk about his book. And now, come riot with me, all you motorcycle midgets, and dance, goddammit. Hey everybody, this is All You Ever Think About is Sparks, and I am your host, Christian Huey. I've got two esteemed guests today. You guys will all be familiar with Mr. Monty Mallon, of course, and his YouTube show, Arts. I always forget the order of the words.
It is Sparks Entertainment and Art.
It's entertainment first and art, yes.
Entertainment and art, yes.
Great. Fantastic show, still going strong. And you've, you're up to, over 24 episodes now, I want to say.
I think it's 3,000. I think it's 3,000.
3,000?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just, every few minutes I just release one. Larry Graves told me that the way to get more subscribers and stuff is to do shorts. So if I can do a couple thousand of those, I'll be in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about those shorts. The algorithm loves the shorts.
Apparently.
And joining us for the first time today is Mr. Chris Sutton. Nice to have you here, Chris.
Thanks for having me, Christian.
Now, Monty had mentioned that you have if I'm not mistaken, you have a Sparks-related book, a publication of some kind coming out?
Yeah. It came out, probably about
It's Sparks in the 70s, which was the golden era, predominantly in Britain and Europe, as you're probably very aware. So that was the reason why it was that kind of decade. And he gave me a little bit of license to go earlier, so that I could include the demo album, the famous Half Nelson demo album as well. So we pick up the story from them and go through to a number one song.
Because I'm deeply curious about your book, and of course I want to buy it and read it, as you all should do as well, listeners. Did you get any good or unexpected interview subjects in there? Was that part of the book?
What I did was, and I've done that with the other books which I've written as well, is the first thing we did was to make a list of all of the musicians on every album, all the engineers, all the producers, everybody. And then you start looking on LinkedIn, Facebook, and everywhere, see who you can get hold of, talk to. And some will just talk to you straight away and are very happy. Others, you send them like 10, 11 emails, and then finally one of them seems to strike the right note at the right time. Then they'll talk to you. And some people just don't want to know. It's the first time that I've had to really be very careful, should we say, editing book.
To recite what?
I had to look at it quite carefully. There were lots of comments. People were quite free with their comments and thoughts. You have to kind of be careful with that sometimes. It was good. The people were really, really interesting. James Mankey was an absolute thrill to talk to, and probably the humblest person I've ever spoken to, I think, in my life.
Earl Mankey. I'm glad you got a chance to get Earl Mankey. I was not able to get him, although I haven't tried in a while. But he's a really interesting artist in his own right.
Yeah. Harvey Feinstein was terrific, and Rupert Holmes, amazingly funny, and Martin Gordon.
Oh, you got Rupert.
Yeah, that took quite a while, and he's one of those people who really wants to get his point of view in a nice way across. He wanted his account of events, and he was just great company. Martin Gordon, probably one of the funniest people I've ever interviewed, ever. I just laughed all the way through. And he actually has a diary, everything that he talks about on his website, and you'll know where I'm going with this. It's all in his diaries, and he actually held them up to the screen to show the very page where he noted down these things that happened during this time. Sal Mader, sadly. Sal Mader, who sadly we lost not so long ago. Immensely humorous, funny guy. And that's one of the nice things with Sparks, is they've had so many collaborators over the decades, as we know. And there's so many great stories that you get from these people. So it was a real pleasure.
That's great. That's fantastic. I can't wait to read it. Yeah, there's certainly some names that you mentioned there. I would really like to hear what they had to say about their experiences. And with Martin Gordon, there's really never any guessing, because he'll tell you straight off. But I had a fantastic time talking with him too. And what's the name of your book, Chris?
It's Sparks in the 70s. It's in the Decade series, Sonic Bomb Publishing. I'll send you a copy if you want. It's probably easier for me to do that.
That would be tremendous. I would love that.
I'm going to just jump in and give a big plug to the book, by the way. I got it. For some reason, it took a long time before it was actually released, but I was a pre-orderer. Then it came, and I just read through it, and there's so much gold in there. And I agree with you. The interviews that you got were just first rate. And and Harley is something. And Jim comes across as someone who doesn't quite appreciate just how much he contributed and how great he is.
Not at all. No. You've had this experience, Christian. I know it's not what we're supposed to be talking about, but you speak to a guy whose bass you've been enjoying for decades, and you try to tell the guy just how much you like his playing. Get this slight silence. And I kind of, it seems like I've been doing my job properly then. And that's his kind of comment on something you've enjoyed for decades.
So he's having a moment reflecting on the fact that he's clearly made an impact on someone's life with his playing.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally for me since I was like 13 years old, and I've spent all those decades waiting for that little lick he plays in Falafel. He plays the little bass lick, and it does the extended one at the end, and I sit there waiting for that every time to this day.
I can hear it now.
Great. Well, that's the neat thing about Sparks fandom, is I've maybe more so than other fandoms. There have been so many participants, in the Sparks story, and so many of them are willing to have a relationship with Sparks fans, and we really get to reap the benefits of that. And here we are. Right. So to get to it, we are getting to that next link in the discography. I made a promise these many years ago I would touch on every element of the Sparks discography. And so today we are going to unearth this long lost gem from their canon. And no, we're not doing pulling rabbits out of a hat yet. I've been dangling that for quite some time, but we will get to that. And I've got some great people that I want to have on for that, including, of course, Mr. Monty. This is the soundtrack to the 1984 film Bad Manners, or is it Growing Pains? Not terribly sure. I think some. I was reading reviews of the film itself, and some had referred to it one, and others had referred to it as another. So I don't know the story, and I'm going to give both of you the opportunity to let me know if you do. But I don't know the story as to how Ron and Russell were tapped to produce the soundtrack, to write the soundtrack for this particular film, or anything like that. Do you have any sort of insights on that, either of you guys?
I don't know. I can only just guess that it's just because of their involvement in that sort of field, music and film, and they obviously know a lot of people. And they clearly seem to have been the go-to guys for a short time in the 1980s, as I think you alluded to. And in fact, Laurie Bell, who's on this soundtrack, she's also, I believe, in Get Crazy as well.
Oh, is that right?
In that, yeah, I believe so. And so there were a lot of links to be made. Maybe they were cost effective as well. That's certainly how they got the roller coaster film, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The only thing I would add, though, the only thing I would add is this was 1984, right? And they just had Sparks in Outer Space and the big hit with Jane Whelan. K-Rock was playing their music. They're kind of the toast of the town from everything we've heard people talking about over the years. They're kind of the toast of the town right there in L.A. And they probably were approached and they thought, and sure, let's do it. I mean, they were a pop band. That's what they were at that point. And I mean, they're always a pop band. That's another discussion. But my point being, it was like a good opportunity for them to do something a little bit different. They've always had an interest in film. This probably isn't exactly what they had in mind, but it was an opportunity, and they said, "Let's just do it. Let's get our hands."
It wasn't Tati, right? They never did get to make that Jacques Tati collaboration. They had this instead.
No.
Alas.
Okay. I do feel that Sparks' 80s output, I always think their 80s output in America is kind of a real generally happy, feel-good atmosphere and warm vibe to it. That's what I get from it. And I do think they're actually a good fit for these films that seem to be popping out of America at that time.
In terms of where they were at that time.
Yeah, at that time.
Yeah.
It's funny when I listen to these songs from this era in particular, and much more so these sort of one-offs, these odds and sods sorts of things that they did for film soundtracks and the like. It makes me think about Ron and Russell, when they grew up in Pacific Palisades in the 50s, 60s. Their mother and their stepfather owned a knick-knack novelties shop with all kinds of weird little gadgets and trinkets, and there was a lot of kitsch, and that makes so much sense when I hear many of these songs, because I don't mean to give away the plot already, but as opposed to the more celebrated Sparks songs, some of these do feel kitschy and of the moment and of that time, and I hasten to use the word, but we can say disposable, perhaps, at least, aesthetically.
I see where you're going. I mean, the other thing I find interesting about the Batman soundtrack is the working with other artists to the point that other artists are even singing their songs. Intrigues me.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. So, all right, the film itself. Who had the pleasure of watching it?
I did. Did you, Christian? Chris, I know you didn't, right?
No,
Okay,
I did.
before I tell you my thoughts about it, I want to tell you how dedicated I am, Christian. When you call, I'm there. I was sick all day yesterday. Last night, I was retching all night, and I was like, I can't do this. But I made myself watch the film, and I said, I'm just gonna be better by the time Christian calls and wants to do this show. Because when you call, I'm there. That's how I live my life.
Yeah, I put up the Monty symbol. Yeah.
With all that going on, I watched the film and I prepared for this show. And all right, so as far I'm the only one who watched the film. Here's what I'll say.
Did I give
It's
you
not.
another wave of sickness, of illness?
If you guys will be the first to know if I have another one. Here's what I'll say. It's not horrible. It's not horrible. I don't know if that's a ringing endorsement, but Get Crazy. Remember, we tried to watch it, and it was horrible, and we couldn't make it through 10 minutes. We thought we were going to have so much fun with it, and we just couldn't do it. This one's not horrible. It holds together. It has a story. It has a narrative that comes together at the end. That said, I don't know if that's the most ringing endorsement. It's not horrible. But that's about as good as I'll go. But
let's talk about how great not Amelie. Let's talk about how great that other Sparks. Never mind. I got off track. Sorry. I'm going to cut that out. Chris.
Just going to ask Monty, how do the songs then, because there's a lot of songs on this soundtrack, how do they fit in with the movie?
Well, it's interesting. By the way, I should qualify what I said. I wouldn't go any higher than it's not horrible. There's really no circumstances where I could see doing that. It's borderline horrible. But as far as the songs are concerned, one of the interesting things that I thought as I was watching it was they really didn't bring the songs in very much until about a third or so into the movie. And that surprised me. I thought there would be just more of the songs. When they did, they were often very short little snippets, as opposed to, like playing the whole song in the background or even playing a substantial part of it. That surprised me a little bit too. And I wasn't looking at it from a Sparks perspective. I was just looking at it from watching a movie.
Sure.
But all that said, the songs fit the movie for sure. Like there's the song on the soundtrack called Motorcycle Midget. And I remember when I heard it and I thought, that's a horrible name for a song, but it was like, whatever. But when you see the movie and you see what's going on in the movie, okay, it makes sense, So the songs were well done for the movie. I will say that.
So I did watch the film.
You did? Okay.
This morning. I saw it, this morning. And I thought it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I was like, man, did Martin Mull owe somebody money? Did he lose a wager?
Right.
And Karen Black, I mean, the two celebrated actors. Okay, they weren't given very much to do. I looked up all the people who were
involved in the film. The director, not much really to say, or the writer. The only thing I found out about the screenwriter was that he later wrote a video game that I used to play about 20 years ago on the PlayStation. So make of that what you will. Um, it it really felt to me like somebody in LA, this Bobby Houston person, knew of this really cool old building that looked like it could conceivably be an old orphanage, from like a Victorian era looking orphanage, and let's shoot something there, and so they did. And as an actor who's done a lot of improvisation, I felt like a lot of the scenes were set up where the director said, okay, in this scene, we just got to get from here to there. The rest is up to you, actors. Go do what you do and improvise. It just seemed like it wasn't very well thought out. It wasn't very well written and I will give it points that I did not know what was going to happen from one moment to the next. It was narratively peculiar. I've made some notes. I won't go on too long with this, but I made some notes. All right. Bad manners. Okay, let's see. First of all, I have some questions, and you would have had to have, paid attention to the movie at least enough, right? So there's some scenes here. There was one scene where the child, the boy, who I think his name is Mouse, the one who gets adopted by Martin Mull and Karen Black. The first time he meets them, he does this little thing. He's sitting in Karen Black's lap, and he shows a safety pin to the camera, and then you don't know what happens next because the camera cuts away, and there's water or something or some liquid that's all over the chair, and she's horrified, and I'm left wondering what just happened
Because
there.
in the prior scene, it showed him taking a condom and filling it with water and putting it under his shirt.
That's how
So
I know you watched the movie.
it got a little. You did. I passed your test. It got a little condom reference there, which is haha, and it set up his little joke. I didn't know where they were going with the joke. I thought they were going to do something a little funnier than that, but that's where they went.
All right. I will give them a
I'm
couple
kind
more
of
points.
an expert on this film. I mean, my favorite films are 2001: A Space Odyssey, Citizen Kane, and Bad Manners.
Yeah.
Those are the three I can
Those
talk.
are the three, the golden three.
Those are my big three right there. Yeah.
Three of the four of the Mount Rushmore. Okay, well, good.
All
Well,
right,
thanks
what's the
for
fourth?
answering
What's
that.
the fourth, Christian?
The fourth one is going to be let's just say roller coaster.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's say okay, well, just some strange phrases that I heard. Real blood is never corny. Bite my crank. Oh, some things that you would not see in films today, particularly with as many children as were in this. You saw open blood to blood contact when they did that Blood Brothers business. You would never see that today. And this was 1984, so right before people really understood, the AIDS,
Yeah.
the AIDS epidemic. There was an awful lot of uh, jokes about racism, homophobia. There were kids involved in drinking and drug
Raping.
abuse, rape jokes,
Yep.
Nazis. I mean, they were really ticking a lot of boxes, the writers and director, for
Can you
finding
just call that? Can you call it bad manners? Do you think?
it. I sounds like bad manners. Yeah, you're right. They ticked all the boxes for the bad manners. Yeah, I agree with that. All right. Well, that's really all I have for that. I thought it was It was an hour and 22 minutes, and I could have spent it in worse ways.
I have a burning question about the film. Pamela Adlon's in it. It must have been one of very, very early films. Does she acquit herself well?
She plays a sort of it's a group of boys you're following, right? And she has an androgynous look. She poses as one of the boys, then she reveals herself to be a girl, and she does fine. Yeah, she does quite well. I mean, I'm aware of her work that she's done as an adult, and she's really great. She's very celebrated as the voice of Bobby Hill from King of the Hill over here. Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't stand out. I mean, you know what?
Well, I can
Speaking
tell you,
of,
Christian, if I get to Goosebumps in the 80s, I will be contacting Pamela and I'll tell you what she says if she speaks to me about this epic up there
I
with
do,
Citizen Kane.
I would love, I appreciate that. The other thing that I like, and I would have to mention this. Oh, who's the actress's name? There was this
Oh, the girl from
Kimmy.
Twin Peaks.
Yep, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, Kimmy.
No, you're
Kimmy
right.
Roberts.
Yeah.
Kimmy Robertson, who plays the supposedly teenaged adoptive sister of the little blonde boy. Out of nowhere, we get a full frontal nude shot of Kimmy. Now, I looked it up. She was an adult at the time. But just very, very strange and just like out of absolutely nowhere. And is this a kids movie? Who knows? Anyway,
Well,
just
the
a
word
lot
you're
of
looking for is gratuitous, I believe. Yeah.
yep, yep.
But I
I mean, it's
think
the
you
age of puppies.
really, I think you really captured the best quality of the movie there with something you said, Christian, which was it was only an hour and 23 minutes.
Yeah,
Because during
very,
the
very
last
much.
half, I was watching on some station where it had ads. During the last half, I was spending more time on the ads than the movie because I was like, okay, I got it, I got to watch the ads.
So, I would like to say that I am very thankful that as Sparks, progressed in their career, that they had more sort of highfalutin um, opportunities to connect with the film world, and it didn't, remain in this sort of place. I mean, especially in the last, 5 years. I mean, look at what they've done in just the last 5 years, and they've got a and they've and supposedly, there is a new musical film um, that I think is sci-fi themed coming up. Although I haven't heard about it in some time. Does that ring a bell? They were
Yeah,
talking about it,
yeah,
several months ago.
Ex Crucior or something like that.
That's
Um,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
hadn't heard.
That's
I hadn't even heard that it's sci-fi themed. I feel like I've heard not a word about what this movie's actually about.
Nah. I could just be pulling that from
They
wherever.
did that song with Matt Richter, didn't they? About a year or so ago. Sparks and Matt Richter.
They come
Don't
fly
Go
Oh,
Away.
away.
oh, oh, Spaceman.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I haven't seen the film, but the song that they collaborated on, that was good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like the film. I would rate it higher than Bad Manners, probably.
that's yeah, probably a safe bet, even though it has Adam Sandler. I would probably do that. Okay, so that's the film. So we have a soundtrack, and the soundtrack,
Yeah.
and Mr. Roodswart did um, verify that it was not released. He said there may have been a bootleg here or there, but it was not officially released. But he did give me what he understands to have been the proposed track listing, and that would be "Growing Pains," the first track, which was either the original or the alternative title to the film. "Things Can Change Overnight," which was
Yeah,
sung
that's good.
by
Yeah,
Adele Bertay. Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. Then we have "Descended from the Apes," Charlie Sexton. I've got a note about that.
Mhm.
"Riot with Me," Lori Bell, whom you mentioned, Chris.
Yeah.
We have an instrumental piece called Screaming, aka Scared, apparently by some outfit called Runnings.
I'm
And
quite dubious on it.
the what?
I got sent the whole soundtrack, and that's the one thing that seems to be missing on what I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel like they play that or a snippet from that. It's an instrumental, I think, right? They play
The
that
other thing
several
is, I
times.
have got an instrumental of Ascend to Me, which is credited as being an instrumental version of Growing Pains. I'm wondering
Oh,
if that Runnings Scared song instead.
so I think the Runnings one is the one that goes da 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 da. It's got sort of a chugging rhythm to it. Um, we'll get to it. We have it's kind of like the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Gleaming Spires. Les Boehm singing this one.
Oh, is that Les
And
Bowen?
yep, that's Les Boehm singing that one. And again, Rude indicated to me that these are Ron Russ original songs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it could very well be that he just doesn't really know. Um, but so I'm not 100% sure if, say, the Charlie Sexton uh, song was, written in any way, shape or form by Mr. Charlie Sexton. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and say that guy lives in my town. Uh, Charlie Sexton, the singer of "Descended from the Apes," which I think is one of the catchier songs on this,
I agree.
and his son, who is also a musician named Milton. He works with my wife doing catering for a Tex-Mex franchise out here, and he's a very nice guy and a good musician, great guitarist. Moving on. Let's see. We've
I,
got
I think you need to go and knock on Charlie Sexton's door because I'm sure this is in terms of his memory bank, I'm sure this is right up there in front, like whether he actually helped write this song or not. So
yeah.
I think it's all on you now,
No, I
Christian.
think yeah. No, that's thanks for putting that in there. And I think, well, if nothing else, this gives me an excuse to go knocking on Charlie Sexton's door. And he's
Imagine he'll have spent decades waiting for that call, I would imagine.
Right, right, right.
I mean, he did go on to some success. He toured with David Bowie
Yeah, did.
and the Glass Spider tour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You might make
Let's
his
see.
life. He might say, "I've been waiting for this."
I've been waiting for someone to ask me about my brilliant work on Descended from Apes from this 1984 movie with Martin Mull. Go figure. The aforementioned Motorcycle Midget, of course, and
Mm-hmm.
then we have What You're Wearing with
Mm-hmm.
Sparks and Laurie Bell,
Yeah, I'm
and
a Rory
then
Bell.
a couple of reprises of the theme song with some lyrics, changed where necessary to make room for Bad Manners versus Growing Pains. And there you have it. All right. So I'd like to start with again what's assumed to be the first track, which would be Growing Pains. At least that's what I'm showing here. Let's see, what do we have here? Growing Pains. Yep, Growing Pains. Okay. Thoughts?
I thought actually it stands up very well against the rest of their outputs in that era for me. I like it, and I'll be going to discuss Bad Moms itself as well because I don't think that made the soundtrack, but that's taken from it, isn't it? Or they just
It's
changed
hard
the lyrics.
Yeah, they just changed the lyrics, and it's hard to say, what's official and what's not, since
Mm.
this was never officially released. Um, I'm trying to pull up the lyrics right here. I have the Bad Manners version, but I don't have the Growing Pains version. And I am curious, if you don't mind indulging me, to see how they differ.
They are different musically quite a bit.
Are there?
Yeah, there's significant differences. Yeah, I would say.
Um, any preference for one over the other?
No, I don't feel that it really makes a lot of difference. And I have got allegedly an instrumental version, but I suspect that's the scared track that you mentioned instead. But I think it's buoyant and it's warm and it's catchy.
Yeah.
That's fine for me.
I didn't really take just generally much away lyrically from really. I don't really think any of these songs, to be completely honest with you. I do get the impression that they. I mean, if Ron can knock out a few songs that wound up on Womp That Sucker in a hotel room in an hour, then I can imagine he could have done this whole album in an hour.
But he wasn't really writing it as a Spark song. He wasn't, he was writing it for the medium, and he knew
point.
that it wasn't really built to be an enduring piece of work that will be part of the Sparks canon and therefore
Yeah.
listened to forever. I think he was, he knew what he was doing. Because I agree with
So
you, lyrically, none of them are, blow you away or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. These are the lyrics to Bad Manners, by the way, since I have them in front of me. You're such a lucky boy. Soon you'll be entering a world of joy. You'll love our friendly staff. You'll have a million laughs, so bless your fate. Here come the pearly gates. Bad manners, they're my pride and joy, and here they come again. Bad manners, and I do enjoy them anytime again. Sounds a little Ronish right there. Inside our happy home, find the music and the private home. You'll make some lifelong friends who will stick with you through thick and thin. Won't you please come all in? Bad manners, they're my pride and joy. Here they come again. Bad manners, and I do enjoy them anytime again. We'll never punish you. We'll merely guide you, and that's all we'll do. You're such a lucky boy. Soon you'll be entering a world of joy. You're such a lucky boy. And then it ends with what must have been part of the original lyrics: growing pains, they keep burning. There's a lot to look at there. Here they come again. Growing pains, they keep burning. Hope they'll never end. So.
I think what Monty says is absolutely spot on. Should imagine, Ron. It's, would you say, dumbed down? Sparks? It is, isn't it? But that being said, I still find it. I can listen to it and enjoy it.
Yeah,
agree.
I mean, I don't think. By the third time I listened to the group of tracks, it started to sink in, and I started to appreciate it for what it is. And there's, you can't. Well, Ron can't. He can't write a bad melody, I think.
No.
So that's here. You do have some good melodies.
You know, you were saying that. I mean, going to another concert, get crazy when I heard that on the Hell Collection. When I heard that for the first time. Lyrically, it's not the greatest thing again, but musically, I've got to say, if they ever opened a Spark show now, we get crazy. I'll be there at the front.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's got that anthemic quality to it, which is great. So I was wondering, and this is just sort of this is the kinds of things that I wonder about when it comes to Sparks is what what was in their musical arsenal, gear wise? What were they dealing with? Because much of this sounds like they probably had the same synths and maybe the Lynn drum machine that they were using on Sparks in Outer Space. There's a sparseness to the arrangement of a lot of these songs, and I'm wondering if that was something that you guys um, noticed. Did it seem of a piece with other stuff they were doing around that era, or what?
My confusion straight away is I agree with you. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got them bringing in Gleaming Spires, Adele Bate, Laurie Bell, Charlie Sexton. You wouldn't have thought they would bother if it was going to be a quick job, really.
Completely agree. Yeah, I know. Why go through the hassle of and I wonder if that could have been the producer said, you've got to find, go find some other talent to at least make it look like, we were farming more talent for this soundtrack project. Maybe, I don't know.
So
Um,
maybe the original intention was to release this as a soundtrack to actually put it out there, and then they
yeah,
just decided for whatever reason to shelve it.
yeah, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, so sonically, this record kind of holds that middle space, that transitional space between Sparks in Outer Space and Pulling Rabbits, where by Pulling Rabbits, they had invested in a CMI. Oh gosh, what's that computer system called? I talk about it all the
Fairlight.
time. Fairlight, thank you.
Fairlight.
They had moved to Fairlight, and so I was listening for any sorts of hints of that, and I didn't hear any of that here. So that this is before they, went full bore with the computer composed stuff. So Bad Manners. After that, we have Things Can Change Overnight by Adele Bertay. Do either of you have heard anything about by Miss Adele Bertay?
No, no.
So, what was this? Things Can Change Overnight. I thought this was a sweet sounding song, and my immediate thought was she sounds like Noelle. I thought she sounded
I
like
think so.
Noelle.
I think so.
Yeah, quite a
Yeah.
bit.
I thought it was one of the better songs on there. It's like you said, it's a sweet song, and it works. I could see that a lot of these things sound like they could potentially be demos for Spark songs, if they were
Yeah.
to shape them a little bit, have Russell singing them, give it a little bit of personality and flavor. Of their flavor. I could see that. And this one I would put in that category. I could see them doing something like this. I like this song quite a bit. I thought it was one of the best.
Yeah, I would agree with Monty on that too. That's my second or third favourite, I would say. There's a couple I like more. That's what comes down to it. But it is. I think I think it works. Okay.
I looked her up. She was kind of peripherally involved in the new wave scene in LA in the late 70s, early 80s. She was in a band that got to open for the Clash a couple of times. Um, she then later became a screenwriter, so very LA type of life, and good for her. But yes, I agree. I thought that was a nice song. Oh, and I think I have those lyrics as well. Sorry, by the way, Chris, I do this thing where I like to read the lyrics out loud to Spark songs because I have such a hard time when I'm listening to the songs in the moment of having them register. So this is things can change overnight. I may not have another friend. I may be broke. God knows I love to spend. The phone don't ring. There is no mail today. But that's all okay. I'm sure it's meant this way. Things can change overnight. I know. Things can change overnight. Repeat. Stare out the window at the lawn. Turn on the TV, though there's nothing on. Maybe a pet is what I really need, or else a book to read. So much to see. Things can change overnight. I know. Repeat. Somebody out there, listen, please. Make something happen to me. Can you please? And then it repeats the chorus. So.
Christian, I want to ask you about something that you said, and I want to know if it was just in the context of the point you were making, which was in terms of the equipment that they were using, or something else. You were saying that this kind of exists as a midpoint between in outer space and pulling rabbits out of the hat. Are you talking strictly about the equipment that they were using, or were you making a bigger point musically that it might fit in? Because
Well,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I do mean the latter, and I think one informs the other. Um, I get the impression that most of these songs were probably composed and maybe even tracked, recorded, with Ron at his the Roland Juno 8, most likely doing a line, and then maybe doing some chords underneath, or some bass, and the Lindrum, because other than a few spots, I'm not hearing much else musically. So I think they were still sticking to a couple of the tools that were working for them in the previous album, Lindrum, Juno 8, synthesizer. But what I don't hear, and I'm curious if you guys heard this, because I don't, always have the best ear for these things. But I'm curious if you guys heard any evidence of the Gleaming Spires guys.
Yeah.
David, you hear David? I don't think I hear David on drums. Bob Hogg, maybe there are a couple of times in there where it sounds like there's a guitar that could be him. And then there's Les Bohm on bass. I didn't hear much of that, although it's probably on the one that Les Bohm sang.
I know that Gleaming Spires have released their track as a bonus on one of their albums.
They
Kind of like
released
the
this.
movie. Yeah, Gleaming Spires have released kind of like the movies on one of their albums.
They did.
The bonus track. It's a remix. It's quite different sonically to this one. But I don't know any credits other than that. They don't even say that Ron and Russ have written it or anything of that nature. I haven't actually got a physical copy of the album, but it's on Wikipedia if you look at it on the bonus tracks. Walk on Lighted Streets, if it's something it's called, have a look on there. It's on there.
Okay,
Which
cool.
album is it on?
I'll tell you in a sec. Hang on.
No, Well, I guess you know, musically, I don't hear it, but from what you're talking about, equipment and tools, sure. You're much better versed in that than I am. Musically, I just feel like this was just something they did, and it had a very specific purpose. But I think if you look at the progression of albums, I don't see where this had particular interest in where they're going musically. So,
you know, the album's Walk on Well Lighted Streets, Gleaming Spires.
That's the second one.
Track. Yeah, it's a bonus track added to it.
Cool. Wow, good find.
That is
pretty
cool.
It sounds exactly the same. It's the same length, and it sounds the same, except it's possibly been remixed.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So Monty, just to so I think it's just pure aesthetics is what I'm hearing. The contours of the synthesizer and the drum machine. I don't really see it as certainly not like in a qualitative way, a half point between in outer space and pulling rabbits. But as far as I guess to answer more succinctly, it is more about the tools that I think I hear.
Got it. Okay. Because it was an interesting thought. So.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then, right. Here's the point. We'll get there when we get to that song, because I think we haven't even talked about the Charlie Sexton number, Descending from the Apes, which they play a few times in the movie, at least twice. They lean on that quite a bit. I guess because it's got, it's got that sort of a bluesy adjacent rock guitar in there, and it sounds good. What did you guys think of Descending from the Apes? And yes, I can imagine that being written by Ron.
I thought the title was very Ron, and I anticipated something a bit more Ron-like in the lyrics, as we're saying. So this is one I did feel a little bit let down.
You felt a little
let down, Monkey.
Oh, really?
I saw the title. I smiled when I saw the title the first time. I thought, this will be a cracker.
Because it sounds like a Ron title. At least the title.
Did to me, yeah. But then the song didn't sound very much like Ron to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's again pretty simplistic. I'll go ahead and read it since I have it in front of me. We are the wild ones. We're sticking together. We got to blow this place to stay away. Never looking back, so don't try to chain us, because we have a long, long history. Descended from the apes. All we got to do is shake. Repeat. A little bit King Kong, a little bit Bonzo. And we got to shake Bonzo. I think that was a reference to wasn't there a film with Ronald Reagan with a chimp named Bonzo?
Yes, there was.
There was, wasn't there? Okay. And we got to shake and shimmy on our own on the planet of the apes. So don't try to chain us and don't try to make us what we're not. And we start grooving up in the big, I just see an ellipsis, on our chase. Well, you start grooving and I will leave you in a mess. We are the wild ones. We're sticking together. We got to shake and shimmy on our own on the planet of the apes. We used to be human, a little like Pat and Debbie Boone, which is the only lyric that I think could have come from Ron. But now we're grooving and now we're howling at the moon. it's I think it's got a nice rock groove chug or whatever to it, and that's the one I'm going to be asking Mr. Charlie Sexton about.
It sounds like a Charlie Sexton kind of vibe from what you're saying. That did he have something to do with writing it? Possibly, I think you suggested it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Great question. I mean, I did just a basic Google search to see if he had released anything by that name, and didn't find anything. So that's why I'm just gonna have to just drive to his house and say, "What's the deal?" I'll just have my tape player and I'll play it. Hey, was this you? Anywho,
So I understand he wanted to be on this podcast, and you said no, you're not quite at the same level as my other guests. And,
no.
Yeah. So he's really waiting for you, Christian.
He is waiting for me. All right. All right. So then we have Riot with Me Baby, which is a very minimalist, like, I don't know, is it wrong to say sub Joan Jett? Just, and not to anything, untoward to Joan Jett, but a couple of very simple chords. Sort of song.
Like the Charlie Sexton song, I think this one was just written because it seemed appropriate for the movie, where it showed up in the movie, and I think that was about it. I don't think there was too much more depth to it.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, I think, is it almost stops because there's nothing else to do. It sort of runs out of steam quickly. But Laurie Bell was quite a significant person on the music scene at that time. She was in the Orchids with Laurie McAllister, who played bass in the Runaways just before they split up. And then she formed a fantastic band called Tantrum. There's a great song on YouTube.
Yeah, the Orchids. Not the Blue Orchids, because they were
the Orchids.
The Orchids, okay.
When Kim Fowley was putting hundreds of bands together, and he involved hundreds of bands in the late 70s, 80s, and one of the bands he was involved with was the Orchids. Laurie McAllister pinched to be bass player in the Runaways at the end. Then Laurie Bell, she went on and formed a band called Tantrum. And it had a great song of theirs on YouTube called Backseat Driver. It's terrific. And she's a great talent, I think. Really interesting.
I wonder where their connection was to her.
Well, she's been in Get Crazy, apparently. Apparently she has a bit part in the film Get Crazy, interesting. Not that I've seen that on. But this one, I think, this one's over before you know it, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But now I will, check out Laurie Bell's other material, because it sounds like she was fairly prolific and had some good stuff. And she shows up a couple of times in this. Any thoughts, Monty, about?
No, I think it's just there to fill in because it seemed right for the movie, and no additional thoughts.
Can I ask you, just generally, do you get the impression that these tunes were written for the movie, or were contributed to the movie as already written songs?
Personally, what I think? Definitely the first. I mean, there's this movie. That's how I hear it, at least. There's this movie and a few songs that will be good for the movie. That'll be great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Mm.
right on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to Scared Runnings. This one I think is the instrumental that pops up throughout the film several times, sort of an interstitial dun 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 dun. Pretty sure I've got that right. Which is also why I couldn't find any lyrics, because that must have been the only instrumental one. It was attributed to a an artist or a group or a band called Runnings who performed it, but come on, it was probably just Ron. I don't see why they would need to, reach out to somebody else to make, a brief instrumental track that sounded just like something Ron could have done on his own machine.
I think I might have this. It was sent to me as described as Growing Pains instrumental, but I suspect that's the one you're talking about. Isn't Running Scared? Is that a pun on something like Roy Orbison or something?
Oh, could be. Yeah, it could be some sort of, it could be an oblique reference.
Didn't we have a song called Running Scared?
If you'll indulge me for a
Scared
quick moment.
Runnings instead of Running Scared.
Right. Scared Runnings. I'm sorry, because I need to know what I'm talking about, so I'm playing the song, the track. Skipping ahead a bit. Okay. You may not be able to hear that very well, but that is what I'm thinking of. Yeah. It's this interstitial sort of driving high tempo thing that pops up in the film during car chases and the like.
The one that I've got, then that's exactly what it sounds like, and I agree with you. It sounds exactly like Run Man.
Yeah. And then we have it's kind of like the movies, which I find a really affecting little tune. I quite enjoy it, and that one's sung by Les Boehm and presumably performed by Gleaming Spires, which is could just say Sparks, since at that time Gleaming Spires were in Sparks's live band.
Yeah, I think
Any
it's one
thoughts
of
on
the
that
better
one?
tracks on here. It's a good upbeat, could be a Sparks type, a Sparks demo type song.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if I already mentioned this, but little piece of trivia. That was the only song out of this entire collection that was ever performed live by Sparks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was part of the thing they did in Glastonbury. Was it
The
Glastonbury?
21 Nights thing. Yeah.
The 21 nights thing. Yeah.
Listening to it. Yeah.
I don't know what night they did it, but according to Rudd, yeah, they performed that song and Russell sang it. So they must have some sort of affection for it.
I always felt that Gleaming Spires, their albums are just fantastic. If there is anyone out there who loves Sparks and hasn't for some reason, listen to the Gleaming Spires albums, and you really should. I think they're terrific.
Yeah, agreed. Really, really. That's been. It's a shame that they haven't gotten more of a look, especially recently with Sparks from that era. Well, and in general, having more of a look. Because they did some really great stuff. And also these lyrics, they seem like they could just be a direct reference to things happening in the movie, to be honest, and they're not terribly deep. It's a Mercedes Benz. There's a kid in the back, and he's going away, and he's gonna look back, and he's looking real sad, and he's feeling real bad, It's a Mercedes Benz, and the sky is so clear. And he's going up north to a holy X scene with a man and his wife, and they're both really clean, and the sky is so clear, and the field is so sad. It's a Mercedes Benz, and it's feeling so bad. And then the chorus. It's kind of like the movies, I guess you said, where all the music starts and the people hear you say, "Quiet, please." And my hands on your knee, and you're looking at me. Then you look at the screen and you look back at me, and we're used to the light, so it's easy to see that I'm smiling at you and you're smiling at me. It's in
Mercedes Benz, there's a kid in the back, and he's going away, and he's gonna look back, and he's looking real sad, and he's feeling real bad. It's a Mercedes Benz, and the sky is so clear, and he's going up north to a holy scene with a man and his wife, and they're both really clean, and the sky is so clear, and the field is so sad. It's a Mercedes Benz, and he's feeling so bad. It's kinda like the movies, I guess you'd say, where all the music starts and people hear you say, "Quiet, please." It's kinda like the movies, I guess you'd
nice sentiment. Doesn't really feel like a whole song, but it is. But it's a nice tune.
Yeah.
And then we've got Motorcycle Midget,
Mm.
which if you ever have the opportunity, the honor, Chris, of watching the film, the child who is the motorcycle midget in question here, there is one point, there's a scene later in the movie where he's in the trunk of a car, and he's trying to announce that he's in there so someone will let him out, and he's
Yeah.
singing this song. He's singing the lyrics
As you
to
would.
Motorcycle Midget. So that was a little surreal. He's in there singing. Where the heck is it?
Tally ho, motorcycle midget hit the road. From the sea to the snow, California highway is his home. He's a little tiny, but he isn't feminine. No, I wouldn't laugh at him, you better hold it in. Motorcycle midget gonna kick you in the shin. Hit the road, motorcycle midget hit the road. Helmet on, glasses on, motorcycle midget's out of mode. Motorcycle midget ain't the leader of the pack. Still, I wouldn't laugh at him, I try to...
Motorcycle Midget. There it is. Tally ho, tally ho. Okay,
But then when the female biker picks him up and he's this little kid on the motorcycle, that's what I was saying. To me, that was the connection that made sense after hearing it years ago and just thinking that's kind of a weird lyric. You know,
Right.
He was so small on the motorcycle compared to her and the rest of them. So I thought, okay, now I know what they mean. Yeah.
Now we have a question, don't we? Because so kid gets on the back of the bike with the female biker lady, and then you hear Russell, tally ho, motorcycle midget. And then several scenes later, so then you're thinking, well, Sparks saw the scene and wrote something that would be appropriate for it. But then you see this kid from inside of a trunk, and he's singing Russell's words.
I got it
He's
right. That must have been where I was in the fast forward phase.
yeah.
Okay.
Missed that part. Not, who knows?
I'll have to watch the movie again.
You'll have. Oh yes, really do it. I don't know. If you have any ayahuasca or something that might make it watchable. But that was kind of interesting. Motorcycle Midget. And that song seems to pop up more often than you would think when I'm looking for sort of swept to the side spark songs.
It also goes back to something else you were saying about the movie. It's like rape jokes, midget jokes, it's like racist jokes. It was just so much stuff that you just wouldn't be doing today,
No. No.
But it was just a different time and they got away with it. But you're right about the movie. I mean, there's a lot in there. I hadn't really thought about it until you said it, but then I'm thinking about it and you're right.
I mean, honestly, there's a lot of stuff in there. And not in like a Richard Pryor, like it's funny way, like, I'm revealing some, naked truth about the world. No, it's just sort of like in a gross way.
I think for me, I was trying to imagine what it was like for the males when they're writing the classic albums that we love. And then I tried to imagine the scene where Russell's in the studio with Ron, and he says, "I've got this next track, Motorcycle Midget."
Sure, Ron, you're the genius. Motorcycle Midgets it is.
Even better, Russell. You're going to sing this one. You're not going to get one of these other ones that we could have given to you. You've got this one.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're stuck with Motorcycle Midgets. All the good ones are taken. Yeah, could be.
It might be something they had to do at the last minute. And just screw it. Let's just do it.
It's catchy. I mean, it's catchy. It's all endearing in some way on here. I mean, it really is, as you would say in the UK, they're taking the piss. This is they're taking the piss record, I would argue.
I hope they got well paid. That's all.
I hope so. And then we have What You're Wearing, which is this very a bouncy, is quite reminiscent of the stuff that
cool places
sang with Jane Wiedlin. Yeah. And this is not Jane Wiedlin. It's whom you mentioned earlier. Laurie Bell, right? Indeed. I thought that was fun. Not much to it. Any thoughts?
Find the interchange between Russell and Laurie, that kind of keeps you going, doesn't it? So I think it kind of suggests there's more about it than perhaps there is when you're about to read the lyrics. And I think we're going to crash and burn a little bit then.
I don't know.
One of Ron's most interesting lines in it, I think, this one.
This one?
Yeah, I think he does get to, you like a guy with real good parts. Or a guy who's in the charts.
Right. Good parts in the charts. But
we don't care about none of that. We just care about shoes and hats.
And so there you have it. Yeah, they just women really just want you to be tonsorially together, according to this
Yeah.
song.
It makes you wonder, though, given the timing, if this was something that maybe had been written when they were writing songs for potential duets with Jane Wiedlin.
That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I could imagine at some point there was a conversation. Hey, Jane, you should just do a whole album with us. Yes, and and they came up with 5 or 6 songs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, I could see that.
just speculation. Who knows? It seems like it makes sense, though, doesn't it? Given the song. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and also her vocal, her similarity sonically, um, to to Jane Wiedlin in my ears anyway. And anyway, unless anyone has anything else about what you're wearing, then it looks like we just basically have a hodgepodge of the the opening theme, but with different lyrics. I'm showing there's "Growing Pains" reprise. Uh, Although I'm wondering if that is, yeah, I think that's just the instrumental. And
Yeah.
then there's "Bad Manners." I think I read the lyrics to "Bad Manners" earlier, but it's the same song as "Growing Pains" with probably mostly interchangeable lyrics, to be honest with you.
Your love, my friendly styles. You'll have a million lives so blessed. Your fate, here come the pearly gates. Bad manners, bad manners. They're not pride and joy, and here they come again. Bad manners, bad manners.
And that's it. And there we have the criminally unreleased Sparks Bad Manners soundtrack from 1984. Now, I wonder, I wonder when that decision was not to release it. I don't really question it too much. Happy it's still out there. Um, any final thoughts before we move on to those next couple of stray tracks we were going to talk about?
Yeah, I did notice that when they put out that Hell Collection compilation, they put 3 or 4 songs, I think, on soundtracks on it. But they did ignore the Bad Man soundtrack.
They did ignore the Bad Manners soundtrack. You're talking about the Hell compilation.
Yeah, it's got Armies of the Night on it, Get Crazy, Breaking Out of Prison. They all appear on there, but strangely, Ron and Russell said Bad Manners, no.
Nothing there from Bad Manners. Okay, so here we have a blind spot, perhaps intentionally so, in the catalog. It didn't even make it to the Hell compilation.
It's interesting to speculate, though, about why they. I'm assuming it was their choice not to release it, right? Or who knows? They're going. Who knows what the story was? But as a soundtrack, as opposed to a Sparks album, it could have been released.
I suppose. I mean, I guess that would have been the decision of for the studio of the film is my guess. At that time, Sparks were. I don't remember who they were signed on to then. I don't remember
I think Atlantic.
who was Atlantic. Okay, Atlantic, because that's who they released in outer space through, right?
I
Yeah,
think.
I think that's right. At least in the States, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, but when it comes to soundtracks, yeah, I'm not really an LA guy, a Hollywood guy, so I don't really know how that usually shakes out in terms of who's, calling those shots. But but obviously it was not released. And I think it's kind of a shame because I think that there are some good ideas here. There's some good melodies here. There's some good turns of phrases here. And and it could have uh some of these could have worked their way into, something substantial.
Well, how did the movie do? I mean, was the movie just kind of inconsequential? It just came and went, and there was no point in releasing a soundtrack, or was it actually fairly?
Well, I all I really have to go by, of course, is the Wikipedia entry. And this is what it says under reception. Targeted to a young audience, the film has received largely negative reviews from adult critics. And there's a bunch of negative reviews here. Let's see. Houston has fashioned a cinematic contradiction, the corporate cult film. Who knows what that means? The derisive black comedy of directors like John Waters, and then repackaged like laundry detergent. So anyway, I'm just getting the general impression that it was just a giant bomb. And
maybe so, but I mean, if you imagine if there was a record store day release of this album, enough of us who would buy.
That's a great question. I'd be there. I would snatch that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all would.
Yeah. I mean, that's really who the target audience would be for something like this, is just the hardcore, ride or die Sparks fans.
I could see something like that happening. Yeah, that's a really cool point.
Yeah, it really is. So that's it for Bad Manners. Wow, what an interesting moment in Sparks' career. It's I don't want to insult it and say that it's a nadir, because I'm sure they had a purpose for it and they did it, and also they got to rope in some talent, some unexpected talent in there, like Charlie Sexton and like Lori Bell. And hopefully that did them some good too. But as we talked about at the beginning, there's a few more songs, since they were sort of guns for hire more or less at this point in LA in terms of doing some soundtrack work. So there are, to my mind, at least 3 songs that I'd like to talk about. And I guess we'll just start with Get Crazy, since I think Chris had mentioned that before. Did you have any thoughts about Get Crazy?
It's, to me, it's just bouncy. It's got a crazy, great riff to it. It's just a feel good, great song. And if on the Mad tour they open We Get Crazy, I'm in. That's mine. I'll be so happy.
Agreed.
You really love that song.
I do.
Yeah,
I like it.
Neither one of us were fans of the movie. Monty and I.
It's sub horrible. It's going back to my earlier comment. It's sub horrible, but the song "Get Crazy" is a good song.
It is a good song.
Yeah,
I said with good talent involved in the film itself.
Yeah.
Like Daniel Stern. And who else? Like, there were some good names in that. Just like this, you had Martin Mull, Karen Black. People need to pay their bills, I suppose. Yeah, that's all there is to it.
I like that song. I like "Get Crazy."
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I like Get Crazy. I mean, it's just it sounds like an early '80s sort of party rock anthem, and they had pointed at the idea that they could do that well, and they did. So beyond that, we have Breaking Out of Prison from Heavenly Bodies.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
I have not seen that movie, so I couldn't speak to it. But it's a fun song, and I do have the lyrics up, but I don't know if there's anything particularly unexpected or interesting in there. Let's see. Bad Manners. Go ahead. Go.
I was gonna say, to me, it's kind of Sparks by the numbers. Like it's right up. There's nothing particularly interesting about it. You can bounce to it a little bit if you want to.
But the prison, baby.
Yeah. I mean, "Get Crazy" does have good lyrics. They're fun. Yeah, and you can. It's fun to listen to. This one, it's just there. Nothing particularly good or bad about it, in my opinion.
There's spot on.
Yeah.
There is still there is a shared aesthetic quality to me of the songs they were doing in this period that were specifically for films. They're bouncy, they're synthy, they're sloganeering, you know, which is, you know, if you want to be cynical about it, you know, you could imagine Ron and Russell were like, so this, you know, crappy Hollywood film wants a theme song. Yeah, I'll give them what they want and for a paycheck or something like that, you know.
And the sky is just a distant memory. And you check your pulse to see if you're still living. And you know this ain't the way it's supposed to be. Where you can walk out of here anytime that you want. You can run out of here anytime that you want. Breaking out of prison, baby. Breaking out of prison, girl. Breaking out of prison, baby. Breaking out of prison, girl. Breaking out of prison, baby. Breaking out of prison, girl. I know you can. See the striptease down a supermarket aisle. Get crazy, tell your boyfriend that you're pregnant, watch him smile. I'm a mouthy sort of guy, kinda quiet, kinda shy. That's my jet that's parked outside. How about a little ride? Get crazy, say your sister to a sheet of Araby. Get crazy, stay your whole day without watching no TV. And I'm staring at your knees.
So we've got one more, to my knowledge, to discuss from this era, and that's going to be mini skirted. The very mini skirted from what was it called? It was a remake of a '60s surf movie, wasn't it?
Boys are.
Where the Boys Are. There you go. There you go. It's a song about miniskirts. It's bouncy. It's synthy. It's you know, and it celebrates the miniskirt. And it's got a, you know, at least a couple of clever lines in there, but you know, not by Ron standards, of course.
If you look at the soundtrack album, it's a lot of rock and roll stuff. Some of it original, some of it cover versions. And the band that really sticks out, is Sparks. It's as though they've gone, you know, we need something about women's garments and that, you know, the miniskirt perhaps. Who can sing a song about miniskirts? Pick up the phone, Ron Mail. Yeah, I'll do that for you. It's not one of the best, is it? Not one of the best.
Again,
Yeah.
I think it's one of those songs that was slotted in and to meet its purpose and created to meet its purpose. Yeah. Also, it got me thinking of the idea of Ron Mail as the Robert Crumb of keyboard-based music.
What year was it?
84.
84.
All this.
So just listening to the conversation, it's getting me thinking about them a little bit at that time. Basically, from 1978 on, they were putting out an album a year, like clockwork, you know?
Absolutely.
And then once they made the switch out of Terminal Jive into the, LA scene, they just were you mentioned that he could write an album like Womp That Sucker in an hour or two. I mean, he was just writing one of these rock songs after another. It was a very easy medium for him. And if somebody said, "Oh, we need a soundtrack song, like something about miniskirts," like, here you go.
Man, it's hot, there ain't no breeze. It's the sun, it's your knees, because you're mini-skirted. That's enough for me, mini-skirted. Good enough for me, mini-skirted. If I say I don't care what they say, because in this skirted, that's enough for me. In this skirted, good enough for me. In this skirted, what a lovely sight to see. When I walk around and see the sun in the sky, bouncing off your knees and through my eyes.
Right. Like he's like, give me that cocktail napkin.
Yeah, sure. I'll take,
like, he's like Picasso in the
$20,000,
70s.
whatever you're going to pay me. Yeah, they weren't looking to make great art necessarily at that point. And, I think they were right. They were just writing songs and having fun, and they had a chance to do this, and people wanted to pay them, and so they said, "Sure, here's a song." He's so prolific. They were so prolific at that time, and he's so amazing. He just does it.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, it's incredible that they seem to be reliving that almost that level of proclivity.
But not quite the same, which is totally understandable. I mean, they're actually older than me, which is hard to believe. But I mean, you're right. But at that point, it was just like, here's an album, here's a tour, and they would be extensive tours, and it was just so easy for them, I think, in a way, to write a song like Miniskirted as opposed to writing a song like Change, where there was a change in their approach, and that you could see the thoughtfulness that was there. Like from Everybody Move to Change, that's a pretty radical, evolution. So at this point, they were just writing all these songs.
Yeah, they were, and I think that it was, I think a lot of Sparks fans would say that there was a bit of a lull in the mid to late '80s where they weren't producing a whole lot, and maybe they weren't really reinventing the wheel like they used to. And I know you are a huge fan of which one is it? Music You Can Dance To? Is that the one, or is it?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot there, although having listened to it again recently, I'm starting to question that. But that's another discussion. But
so I wonder, well, I'm sure they were, if at all, Ron and or Russell were feeling concerned that they were, running dry creatively. I bet it was very helpful to know that they had ingratiated themselves with the LA scene, which very much includes Hollywood, and they had made so many connections so that, like, hey, you want to do a movie? You want to do a soundtrack? You want to do this? You want to do that? Like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, we'll do it without necessarily thinking about the artistic merit of those particular jobs, but taking advantage of them because either it may juice us to think about our next creative step, or just the simple fact that, well, one thing that those guys always knew was of the utmost importance was networking. And they definitely did that during this period of meeting all these folks in LA and in Hollywood, and getting the opportunity to do all of these soundtrack songs, which weren't always the best, but I think it did help pave the way for what they would do afterward.
Yeah.
And Monty made a good point as well. I think at the beginning, Monty was saying, can you imagine what these films would have been like if we'd had some of the more classic Sparks kind of material? You'd have been watching something like Bad Manners, utterly distracted by the music going on in the background, and you're thinking, what on earth is that? These songs do blend in, don't they? I mean, they're not interrupting the film, apart from Motorcycle Midget, I would argue, anything.
So, Chris, if I can ask you a question. We're looking at it from this U.S. perspective. I was there going through it. Christian has gone back and he's looked at it and put it into his context. You were in the U.K. where they really weren't doing much, and they were really not focused on the U.K. at all. And you would just get these little snippets. And what was it like from your perspective to get these soundtracks, and how did they fit into your thinking about Sparks at the time?
You got to remember this is pre-internet. This is just music papers in Britain telling you what's going on. Sparks were utterly, completely, almost non-existent for most of the 1980s in Britain. It was as though they had just ceased to be. If you wanted to find out anything, you'd have to have gone to a record store to buy a record. If it was there, it might have only been available on import. We just knew nothing. It's almost like almost nearly a 10-year gap, really. And they appeared in Doing Change on television. That was the first like big bang that we'd really had since Number One in Heaven, really.
But from your perspective, personally, were you hearing these soundtrack releases and just saying, or were you following them at all?
So the soundtrack releases I only found out about much later on, pretty much when the internet came in, came back, and you started discovering, they were busier than I thought they were.
Yeah, interesting.
Busy in the 80s, they were a lot busier than I thought. One thing I wanted to mention to you as well was that when I did my book, it was interesting that between Kimono and Propaganda, that Ron Mail, rather than relying on the songs we knew he'd got in the bag that he hadn't used, he almost wrote a completely new album's worth of material for Propaganda. When I spoke to Sal Maida, the Big Beat, he reckoned there's only one song on Big Beat that had actually been lurking around for some time, not counting I Like Girls, which they didn't even play on. That was played on by a different band. But he thought, I thought the Mississippi River was the only song that he reckoned Ron had probably had around for some time. So there is this sense that Ron moves on. He's constantly writing new material. So I suspect that he didn't go into his stuff he got available at these soundtracks. Well, I've got a bit of a tune here or there. I can quite believe that he just sat down, as Christian alluded earlier, just came up with an album's worth of material in maybe a day, 2 or 3. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do that.
Fantastic. All right. All praise. The great R&R. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm really obviously looking forward to hearing Mad. I've kind of kept a bit of a distance from the new stuff. I haven't really other than the first single they released, I haven't listened because I want to be focused when I do. But certainly when we do, as I assume we'll do on my show, like we did for Latte, I would definitely like to have a live listener's reaction, and you're most certainly invited to come on board for that, Chris, and I'll let you know when that
The
happens.
latest song of Mad is gone right up my Sparks list of favourite songs because I got goosebumps fine tingling just from Ron's keyboards on it. Drowned in a Sea of Tears. It's I love that track.
It's great.
Which one? What's the name?
It's great.
What's the name? The title?
Drowned in a Sea of Tears. Drowned in a Sea of Tears.
Okay, all right. That's one I've been putting off listening, but I might as well go ahead and do it.
You should. You really should. Really good.
Well, I'm excited for it, and I want to thank you for coming on, Chris, and all of your insight. And I am looking forward to reading that book very much so.
Send me your details.
Good. And Monty, thanks as always. And I know you'll be seeing Chris again soon on your show. We're such a it's a small but very intimate group of Sparks fans on the internet, aren't we?
It's a family.
It is a family. I like that.
It is.
In my family. That's a song. Yes.
And it's always great, when new people come. It's not like it's a cult, in my opinion. It's a family that's open, and everybody, like somebody who's new to Sparks brings so much perspective to it. It's usually with Edgar Wright, just like for a lot of us, it was seeing him on Midnight Special or something like that. But for a lot of people, it was Edgar Wright or Top of the Pops.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. So it's it's the kind of thing that it doesn't just span generations; it spans geography and genres and all that sort of stuff. So that's why I'm always happy to be involved in this project. And I thank you guys both so much for coming on and for doing this. And I hope to have one of you. I will probably be having you on another week or so. But I certainly hope to be able to talk to you again, Chris. And I'm looking forward to that book.
Yeah, I remember we're all descended from the apes.
Yeah.
True. As Charlie Sexton sang.
Yeah.
Whether or not he wrote it or no.
You're going to find out and let us know, right?
I'm going to his house right now. Yeah.
So did this meet what you wanted, Christian? Because you've been talking about doing this episode for a couple years now.
Have I? I guess.
Yeah,
I know this was. I could not have asked for anything that, again, ticked all those boxes that I wanted for this. And so now we can finally get to pulling rabbits.
Just as long as we don't have to watch that movie again. Ever.
I will never
ever
do that again. The pain is done. We're done with the painful stuff.
All right.
We'll talk about pulling rabbits next. Okay. And I think I'll probably get talk to John Ashdown, who's also out in London. All right. Thanks again, you guys. I really appreciate it. I'll let you know when it comes out.
See you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it.
Great to see you, Chris.
Yeah.